What is up, everybody? It's a boy Lance back at it again with a new One Punch Man, the strongest guide. Today we're going to be talking about synergy and lineup building. Now, before we proceed, I'd just like to apologize if this video is going to take a little bit long. It's because that is a wide topic that needs to be covered properly, so I'm going to take my time to explain concisely on the certain lineups and adjustments that you can make to make your good team better. So let's have a look, shall we? So firstly, a brief introduction into the subject of the day. What is synergy? So in the context of One Punch Man, the strongest, synergy can be defined as building layers of damage that make sense. So you have multiple sources of damage. You have your DPS, sub DPS, you have a reflection tank, or you have a tank that can deal damage. You have a utility unit to reduce incoming damage or increase damage done to the enemy. And it's something that should be considered a basic structure to form good lineups. So how to build synergy? You must first understand unit dependency. So it starts with understanding a core. A core requirement is to have, let's say we're talking about Gyro core. So you need 3 Aspers and a Grappler. Do those 3 Aspers and a Grappler need to be all DPS units? No. You can of course insert filler units in there to make sure that your core is functionable at least. You also have certain dependencies between units, such as with Genos and Gyro, needing Gyro's max HP buffer for Genos to reach max damage. So there are certain units which depend on a core to shine, and there are certain units which help a core shine. So the example I gave with Genos, the other example would be Garo in Zombieman core. So Garo inflicts internal injury and that actually introduces the 20% AUG damage passive from Zombieman core because of the internal injury present. So synergy works in that sense, where there is a codependency between your units and it allows them to combo and shine better. Every core has their main DPS. Example, CE core would be King, Zombieman core would be Garo, and for Gyro core it would be Genos. So why is synergy good? Number one, if you build a team based on synergy, it provides the highest win percentage. It's not your win rate that goes up, it's your chance of winning that goes up. So you cannot tally it together. The reason being is that once your team makes sense, like there's a flow to everything, it will naturally sync up and allow your units to actually shine in their specific role, allowing them to reach greater heights. And synergy can also allow you to overcome BP gaps, because I've seen certain individuals with 6-7 million BP beating individuals with 9-10 million BP, albeit with a lot of trouble, but that's because of the synergy difference. Because if your lineup does not make sense or your lineup is not tuned properly, it will not be able to function at its peak. So enough droning on about this, and let's get into the thick of it, shall we? So first things first, before we get into the synergy, I'd like to introduce a new class to you guys. Some of you guys will know this, some of you guys will be new to this. So we have DPS, sub DPS, utility, tanks. So these are the 4 main common roles we know. Now we have a 5th one known as buffers. So we have a variety of buffers shown on the board today. We have HP, examples are Psychos and Watchdog Mag. We have attack, Dr. Genos is a famous one, as well as Goribas and Metal Knight. Heal rate, we have Goketsu and Lin. Berserk, we have Chaw Emperor, Psychos, Moomin Rider, Bakuzan. Extra damage, we have Sky King. Before we proceed, I would just like to mention that buffers do not stack. So just because you have 45% attack damage buff from Goribas, as well as a 30% from Dr. Genos, it doesn't mean that you have a 75% attack boost. It doesn't work like that. It will take only the highest value. So you'll go after Goribas. So having more than one buffer for a specific stat is not ideal in the team. Unless you happen to have it there, like let's say Gyoro and Moomin. Gyoro will naturally berserk, but you want Moomin to berserk Genos to deal extra damage. So that's how it is. Extra damage as in additional, not extra. Okay. So now that we've clarified that stuff, let's move on to the first era. We'll be observing CE era. Now before we begin, some of you might be asking, wait, why do I have to care about CE era again? We're not playing that anymore. This is just a narration for new players or players playing in other servers such as JP in Korea who are struggling to build their lineup. So do give a little bit of patience with this. You can of course skip this section if you want to. So the first section, the first lineup is a classic OTK lineup from this era. Now before I begin, all the lineups have been speed tuned. They're already tuned to their speed in the lineup, so you can just observe that. So first speed, King. Second movement, Golden Ball, Child Emperor, Sky King, and Super Alloy. So why do I run it like this? King for the seal, movement for buffing Golden Ball for the sub DPS, Child Emperor as the core, as well as a stunner if you need him to be, Sky King for the extra damage, it benefits King, Golden Ball, and Super Alloy for the ultimate reduction. I feel like this is a very balanced OTK team comp. You cover all the bases and you have a very strong lineup synergy. And then we have more of an infamous build, the infamous MK Tatsu in CE Core. So you have Metal Knight as a buffer, Movement Rider to buff Terrible Tornado as well, Terrible Tornado as the main DPS, Golden Ball as cleanup, Child Emperor as the core, and Alloy again as the ultimate reducer. Of course, you can have you can change units out. You can put, let's say for King slot, you can put Atomic if need be. For Metal Knight and Tatsu is more or less locked, but you can swap Golden Ball with any other relevant DPS. So of course there will be substitutes for Alloy as well. Sky King shouldn't be substituted in my opinion. And if you don't have Movement Rider, I'm not sure what game you're playing. So these two lineups are actually the most common lineup for mid to high tier PvP at the time. And I feel like they are very standard for those who have Child Emperor, because Child Emperor actually enables you to play OTK. So what happens if you don't have Child Emperor? Well, you run anti-OTK. So this team utilizes one of two cores. So for here, I've referenced DSK Core 4, but you can actually use DSK Core 1 for the reflect as well. So I have Golden Ball as a main DPS instead of a sub, Tank Top Master as a support to protect your backline, Sky King for extra damage, CK as a frontline, Dr. Genos as a buffer, and Dixie King as the core as well as the main component of this lineup instead of Child Emperor. Alternative, you will have Mosquito Girl over Tank Top Master for healing, and you can also spread the Dr. Genos attack buff to multiple units, and slotting in Super Alloy Blackluster to tank more of those ultimates rather than depending on DSK alone. So this anti-OTK build is common for those who do not have Child Emperor, and of course you can swap Golden Ball for any relevant DPS, or you can swap Mosquito Girl as well. So now we're going to the third lineup that we have for CE Core, which is a dot composition. So you can also run DSK Core 1 or Core 4. So this lineup will usually be slightly slower because you want to generate energy. So you have either Glory Bus or Compu Infinity as the main corroder. Then you have Subterranean King for a follow-up dot. For burn, you have DSK for his core as well as his corrode, Dr. Genos for heal buff as well as for attack buff, depending on which one goes on priority. Both are at the same level between Glory Bus and Dr. Genos if I'm not mistaken. Sky King for the extra damage to buff up Vaccine Man. So in this case, you have two different buffers if you're using Glory Bus. But if you're not using Glory Bus and you're using combo, you'll be using Dr. Genos value a lot more. So in these two lineups, the only variable change is between Glory Bus and Compu Infinity. Do I recommend players to get Glory Bus? It's a little bit dependent on your diamond income. If you can manage your diamond income to get all your resources and you still have extra, then please by all means get Glory Bus. If you cannot manage it well, if you want to do other things with the diamonds, then get combo or play a different lineup. You have other variations of lineups to work with, so Goribas, more or less I would say, get for the perks in your own free time. It's not a must-have unit. It is a must-have unit for Dot, of course, unless you want to depend on combos RNG forever, but it's not a must-have character to play the game. But it is a must-have character to play Dot. So with that said, all of these units are relatively easy to get aside from Deep Sea King. So if you do not have Deep Sea King, you might want to either consider running a different build or using a different core. It won't work as well, but it will still work, and that's the most important thing. So cut to the chase, we're going to Zombieman era right now. We're going to what is described as, in my terms, early mid game. So first we're going to go with a standard lineup sans Goketsu. So the best team would be Tank Top Master Speed 1, Garo, King, Zombieman, Carnage Kabuto, and Linin. So this is a lineup that I would say is very common in this era. Number one, because Tank Top Master is actually a strong unit in this core. And number two, you have Garo as your main or sub DPS depending on how you build him, and King as a main or sub DPS depending on how you build him. So this is one of the tried and true lineups which I say is quite strong. The CK also benefits from the heal in Zombieman core, and Linin boosting that heal up makes it even more insane. Now, the alternative would be Metal Knight, Garo, Terrible Tornado, which is the MK Tatsu again, and then Zombieman, Carnage Kabuto, and Silver Fang. So this is a more energy intensive build, so you would swap Tank Top Master for Silver Fang. And if you do not have King, you can of course swap him with any relevant DPS unit at the time, but I think King is one of the apex of DPS at that time specifically. So regarding the dependency on certain units, because you need 3 grapplers in this lineup, there will consistently be 3 grapplers, so you will consistently need to train 3 grapplers. So any other unit that's outside the 3 grapplers, you might want to consider building as a sub, unless you have Silver Fang. Because Silver Fang does not need to be trained, you can train another unit. That's why I slotted Silver Fang into the alternative team, because you do not need to train Zombieman and Silver Fang. So you have enough resources, and as well as Metal Knight. So you don't have enough resources spread between 3 units, 1 DPS, 1 sub DPS, and 1 tank. Or you want to focus on 1 DPS, 1 tank is also fine, following the 2 unit max theory. Now with Goketsu, the lineups change, I wouldn't say significantly, but the best team will be Tank Top Master Goketsu, hands down. Especially if your Tank Top Master has Keepsake, that's incredible shielding. Garo as a main DPS, Goketsu as a sub DPS to clean up the field with internal injury, or you can run it the other way around, is also fine. You have Zombieman for emergency heal, CK for tank, and Dr. Genos for attack buffing. Alternative, you can run Garo Speed 1 either as a DPS or setup, then run King as a DPS or a setup as well, and Goketsu at Speed 3. This is a very ult intensive and requires heavy layering, but you have Silver Fang. So if you allow your team to crisscross, basically you move first, then your enemy move, then your other units move. That allows your team to actually build up synergy and energy for you to actually make this lineup work. So it requires a lot more thinking, but it should be able to work because your energy generation depends on Silver Fang shield actually activating. Of course, you have tanks. You can also put Alloy as well if you need to, but I think Carnage Kabuto benefits a lot as well because his ultimate healing is boosted by Goketsu. If your team gets wiped out, you still have Carnage Kabuto to stand in the line just in case. Nevertheless, we're going to what I would consider the mid game now. So we're catching up with the current time, which is Gyro era. So some people will say, oh, bomb is late game and all that. I don't believe that because the game is still progressing. I feel like we're in an endless mid game. So I will only stop at Gyro era for this video because I think Bomb is still a little bit too far. So this video will go all the way up to LSSR R9. So let's have a look. So pre-Genos build. So the best team will be King, Garo, Goketsu, Phoenix Man, Psychos, Carnage, Kabuto. This is the tried and true common team that you will see in PvP. Very commonly run, and you'll be using Gyro Core 1. And then an alternative will be the same 3 main units. Whether it's DPS or sub DPS is completely up to you. Psychos, Carnage, Kabuto, and Sky King. This is for people who do not have Phoenix Man. If you do not have Goketsu, then that is a really difficult slot to replace. Personally, I would replace it with either another DPS unit. If you have, let's say, Tatsu, or even Tank Top Master is fine if you need it for that slot, but I highly recommend you run this team if you have the units. I know some people won't have these units. Of course, you can replace your units with any other relevant role. So you have, for DPS, Atomic, maybe, if you train him well enough. I'm not saying it's a good alternative, I'm just saying that it's an alternative which you can explore, because it highly depends on your server and it highly depends on what units you have available to you, because I myself cannot give you your units, only you can get your own units. Anyways, we're moving on to a second pre-Genos team, which is Tenkomato Goketsu. You have Garo as a middleman, either as a sub or main DPS, up to you. Phoenix Man, Gyro, and Sky King as the Espers. Alternatively, you can run King, Garo, Gyro, Phoenix Man, Carnage, Kabuto, and Sky King. These both synergies work very well. They cater to defense with Tank Top Master Goketsu, offense with Garo as well as Phoenix Man once his HP drops, and you buff extra damage. Extra damage comes in the form of Tank Top Master passive, Garo passive, Phoenix Man passive, so it works very well. For the second team, extra damage boosts King ult, Garo passive, Phoenix Man passive, Carnage passive. So there's a lot of buffer bonus you have in your team, and I think just because Phoenix Man buffs extra damage as well as his value as an Esper, wait, let me clear my throat. So just because of these conditions, I feel like this lineup is one of the best. However, as I said before, some of you might not have these LSSRs, so certain lineups might be adjustable. Just follow the 2 unit max theory, 1 tank, 1 DPS, and then you have 1 extra sub DPS, a core, a utility unit, and a buffer, and you're good to go. But this, I would say, is the top tier decks of this era. So now we're moving into Genos era. So Daytona or fast Genos, you go Genos speed 1, Gyro speed 2. This is my lineup at least, just because I do not have any other relevant sub DPS unit. I've all in onto Genos. Boros as a tank cleaner, Black Luster and Malzagarde to protect Boros, and Sky King as number 1 a filler Esper, and also to boost extra damage. My lineup itself doesn't really have extra damage aside from Boros Primal, so you can consider any other unit to fill in. You can even consider putting CK because you already have 3 Espers there. An alternative would be Genos Tank Top Master Goketsu. So you deal insane amount of damage and then you shield your backline. Then you have Gyro Phoenix Man as well as Sky King for the Esper requirement. So in this lineup, there of course are certain units which free to play might not be able to obtain just because the banner proximity is way too close, or certain units are just really hard to get, like Malzagarde. So you can swap Boros, Malza or Phoenix Man for any relevant Espers, I would say, in this lineup. Of course, you cannot swap Genos because what's the point of building a Genos team without Genos? Anyway, now we'll go to slow Genos, which is Adamantoise Genos. So speed 1 King for seal, and then you run your Genos and then Garo as cleanup, Psychos as the core, Super Alloy as ultimate reducer, and Sky King as relevant Esper. And then you can also run Tank Top Master Genos Goketsu. So Tank Top Master Goketsu as the shielders, Genos as max DPS, Psychos for the core, Phoenix Man for extra damage, last minute kills, as well as a frontline staller with his Undying, and Sky King to fulfill the core. So you can swap King Garo for any relevant DPS, sub DPS. You can swap Sky King, Phoenix Man for any relevant Espers. But other than that, most of the other units are locked in. Genos are locked in. Tank Top Master and Goketsu is locked in. Alloy is locked in. Gyro 100% has to be locked in without a doubt. So now we have our last lineup, which is what I consider the Gyro Apex team. So this is the team which you will be running. It's very expensive. I'm not even going to lie to you. I'll probably not be running this build because it's hella expensive. So I'll most likely be running the alternative but with Genos inside. So you have Speed 1 SSR Amai into Daytona Genos, Watchdog Man, ATT for the sub DPS cleanup, RMG for the follow up, and Psychos for the core. Alternatively, you can run SSR Amai, Tatsu as the main DPS, RMG as the sub DPS, Psychos as a core, Carnage as a frontline tank, and Vaccine Man as the enabler for dot damage. So both these lineups have solid builds. The bottom lineup is incredibly squishy in my honest opinion because you only have 3 tanks, and you have 1 damage dealer and 1 enabler and 1 cleanup. Whereas in the top team, technically Genos is a tank, so you have 1, 2, 3 if you count Gyro tanks. You have 1, 2, possibly 3 DPS, possibly 4 if you include RMG. So 4 DPS in the team. Very painful lineup. You have Amai to cut down enemy max HP with his passive. And overall, these 2 lineups are very explosive. The top lineup is very explosive to your wallet as well. And in my opinion, for the best team, swap RMG for Vaccine Man if it's not P5 because you won't be able to clean up as well. And Vaccine Man overall will be a good asset because of Terrible Tornado. So does this mean that I need every LSSR to build this Gyro Apex team? Yes, you need. But do you need to build this Gyro Apex team? No, you don't. Just if you look through the eras, you see like there's always alternatives to every situation. So there will be an alternative to the best team as well. You can maybe not get Watchdog Man, maybe put Carnage there. You can maybe not slot in RMG, put Vaccine Man. You can maybe you definitely gonna need Amai, that's without a doubt, and Gyro as well. But there are some units or LSSRs which are quote-unquote replaceable for other units that are available in your unit pool. You just need to understand what you need to get done. So what are the purpose of each and every unit? So for Amai is of course for speed. So you remove the need for speed gears on your units anymore. Genos is of course for max damage, also you can replace with Tatsu if you want to go that route. Watchdog Man is for utility, for column HP up as well as silencing. Tatsu is for the sub DPS in the best teams context. RMG is for the cleanup, and Psychos is for the core. So you can replace Watchdog Man's utility with maybe Carnage. He's able to tank well and reflect as well. Not as good as Watchdog Man's utility, but still usable. You can replace Tatsu with another relevant sub DPS, maybe King if you want to go that route. If you're not planning to get Tatsu, which I highly don't recommend, you should try to get every LSSR important unit. And for RMG's case, if she's not P5, you can replace her with Vaccine Man or somebody relevant which you feel that can aid your team's dynamic. And for the alternative team, it's slotting 3 units which you already have. You're only replacing 3 units. And RMG can be swapped for a different unit. Maybe if you have Genos, you can swap in Genos there as well. Instead of a main, she goes for a sub DPS. It might or might not work because I usually run Genos as a main DPS, but you can try it for yourself and figure it out. Who knows, you might pave the way for a new synergy based comp which everybody will be able to learn from. So I encourage you to spend time to experiment and understand how your units work together. I hope this video has given you some insight into the world of synergy and into my mind as well when I consider building lineups. Of course, you should never be afraid or ashamed to ask around people for opinions on your lineup. Some people will agree with you, some people will disagree. That's just the basic of the basic. Because that's just how the world works. We work on different perspectives, on different time zones, on different thinking patterns. The most important thing is that you stay true to yourself and you get as much information as possible to help yourself improve. Now, on a side note, I'll be doing more counter-side content after this, and I'll be coming up with a beginner guide as soon as possible. So I hope, number one, this video helped you, and number two, you join me in counter-side. It's damn fun, guys. Anyway, as always, it's your boy, Lance. I hope that you guys have learned something new today, and I hope that I was able to impart some good knowledge onto you. If you agree or disagree with my opinion, feel free to tell me in the comments. Don't attack me. Hey. You attack me, I ban you. I'm just kidding. But yeah, do give your feedback. Let me know. I know it's not feasible for everybody to get the best team, but it is the best team for a reason. Anyways, you have my respect. I have your respect, everybody. Let's respect each other. Let's get to 1k subscribers, everybody. We're almost there. I'm going to announce my giveaway. I've already announced it on the Discord, and I will announce it to the public soon. Hopefully, maybe. Anyways, till we meet again, everybody. Peace.